Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So welcome everyone to our annual Darul Islah fundraiser dinner. Before we continue into the event itself, just a few housekeeping announcements. The bathroom in the back is for the sisters. For the brothers, the bathroom down here, inshallah. And as you know, we're here today for Darul Islah's sustainability program. But there's no other better way to start any program without the recitation of the Quran, inshallah. So I'd like to call up Sheikh Walid al-Batrawish to recite some Quran, inshallah. Sheikh Walid.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. ومثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم ابتغاء مرضات الله وتثبيتا من أنفسهم كمثل جنة بربوة أصابها وابل فآتت أكلها ضعفين فإن لم يصبها وابل فطل والله بما تعملون بصير. صدق الله العظيم.
Takbir. Takbir. Jazakallah Shaykh Walid for that beautiful recitation. And before we continue on to the program as well, we'd like to give the Darul Islah Hifz Academy students an opportunity to come up here and sing a nasheed for us, inshallah. So with that said, I'd like to call up the students of, some of the students of Darul Islah Hifz Academy to come up here as they'll perform a nasheed for us. And then inshallah we'll begin the program itself. So all those students, please come up.
بسم الله.
Can you bring it back, please? Make a curve, brothers. Curve. Make a curve. It's so hard to know the curve, what the curve is. This is the curve.
Okay, just put it in 8. 8.
غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. اتلو السطر وراء السطر، فالقرآن ربيع العمر. اتلو السطر وراء السطر، فالقرآن ربيع العمر. والقرآن شفاء الصدر، فيه الرحمة والغفران. والقرآن شفاء الصدر، فيه الرحمة والغفران. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. أبدا لا يعلوه كتاب، أبدا لا يمحوه سراب. أبدا لا يعلوه كتاب، أبدا لا يمحوه سراب. أنزله رب وهاب، رب تواب الرحمن. أنزله رب وهاب، رب تواب الرحمن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. اتلو المصحف فجرا عصرا، تعشق روحك هذا الذكرى. اتلو المصحف فجرا عصرا، تعشق روحك هذا الذكرى. تلقى الخير وتلقى الأجر، تلقى الخير وتلقى الأجر. وتحرر فيه الإنسان، وتحرر فيه الإنسان. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. غرد يا شبل الإيمان، غرد واصطحب القرآن. فيه الحق وفيه النور، فيه اللؤلؤ وفيه النور فيه اللؤلؤ والمرجان غرد يا شبل الإيمان غرد واصدح بالقرآن غرد يا شبل الإيمان غرد واصدح بالقرآن غرد يا شبل الإيمان غرد واصدح بالقرآن.
Once again, takbir. Jazakallah to all those students from the Darul Islah Academy who just performed Nasheed for us. So now, inshallah, again, welcome to everyone here to Darul Islah's annual fundraiser event. And you guys are all here knowing that it is a fundraiser event. This was no secret coming in. But it's not going to be your typical fundraiser event either. Instead of focusing strictly on costs for maintenance and whatnot, today's, as a topic, and you saw on the flyer as well, the fundraiser is going to be focusing on this idea of sustainability. And what do we mean by that? It's inshallah, to be able to raise funds for initiatives that will help Darul Islah become in the future, have a consistent income coming in on a monthly, yearly basis, whatever it is, so that, again, it can sustain itself without having us to depend on, so many fundraisers throughout the year. And to discuss, this idea further and the plans and just in general, what Darul Islah has in the outlook, inshallah, I'd like to call up Board of Trustee member, Brother Yazdani, inshallah, to give us a quick presentation on this. Once again, I'd like to call up Board of Trustee member, Brother Yazdani, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, I'm just like to introduce you to our sustainability program. This idea of the sustainability, we came up in the Board of Trustees. Last couple of years, we were discussing on this subject, and we came up with the idea and to buy the properties around the masjid. This way we can have a project which can sustain us in the future for Darul Islah. Can we have the slide one, please? Yeah, this slide, this shows here, we have a masjid here on the left side. On the right side, we have the 309 Fabry Terrace. That property was purchased 2 years ago. And adjacent to that, we have squares. You can see the squares. That squares are the properties 309 and the Harding. That is 306 and 310 on the Harding. If you take these two properties together, we will have the entire area. The second slide, you can show that. Yeah, this entire area between the Fabry Terrace and the Harding, we will be having that. So then after, and also we are in touch with, we are already in conversation with this owner for 310 Harding Avenue, and we are still continuing with him on the discussions. And then also recently, on the last year, we got another property. The next slide, please. We got a property on the Hemlock Terrace. That is 320 Hemlock Terrace. That is adjacent to our parking lot. So we approached this brother, and also he is willing to sell this property. And once we have these properties, go to the last slide, please. The entire area, the whole thing, it's like, we can have like a Darul Islah complex. The whole thing from on this side, on this side of the Harding as well as the Fabry Terrace total. The whole area will be here, and and we would like to, in the possible future options on this, the whole thing is, go to the last slide, please. We can have a sustainable income for the long run, and we would like to construct senior citizens or housing for the elders in our community, or we will be using this space for the youth activities as well. And also we can expand the Darul Islah school system. This is our project, and we would like to do this, inshallah, with your help, and with the, let's make, inshallah, dua also that Allah make it easy for us. And this is, this is the one, because this will help us to sustain this, because right now our budget is close to $1 million. We started as a small entity, and now we have reached almost close to, 70,000-80,000 is the operating budget per month for us. So inshallah, for this we need some kind of sustainable income in the future, so that we can run our organization without any issues. Inshallah, for this, Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, for this, brother will continue with that. Brother Abbasi will continue on this.
Jazakallah Brother Zani for that. I would say maybe let's keep the slide open for the one that shows all the properties together. So for us to have continuous visualization on, the goals that we have, inshallah, within the next several years, and why we're here today for the fundraiser. Just to reiterate what Brother Yazani was saying, just imagine if we're able to, inshallah, get all those properties, the different things that we can do, so things for the youth, senior citizens of our community, some sort of rental income, and this would all be for the masjid, for the community, and that's why we're all here today. And so now I'd like to call up, inshallah, Brother Abbasi to discuss further on the importance of sustainability and building up on the community and the fundraiser itself. So without further ado. Yeah. For those that couldn't hear, Brother Makandar, essentially what's in green is what we already have, and what's blue is what we're looking to buy, inshallah, and purchase. Inshallah. So with that said, I'd like to call Brother Abbasi, inshallah, to begin the program. And I don't think he needs any introduction whatsoever. He's giving monthly khutbahs, we all know. Brother Abbasi.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Dear brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I speak about the sustainability aspect of this evening, I'd like to reflect a little bit on some words that I heard from Sheikh Hanuti rahimahullah probably about 5-6 years ago. Now, most of you prayed Maghrib tonight, and you heard Sheikh Quraishi recite the ayat from Surah Al-Baqarah 260 and 261, right, Sheikh? And then we asked Sheikh Walid Bartawish, and I don't think you're coordinated with him. I think it just so happened he picked the same ayah. And he recited 260, 261, 262, right? وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. And then he followed with 261. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُم فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ أَنبَتَتْ سَبْعَ سَنَابِلَ. So it looks like I was the only one who was paying attention to what was being recited. But neither here nor there. What does this have to do with Sheikh Hanuti? What does this have to do with this? Sheikh Hanuti rahimahullah, we asked him to come and join us for a fundraising. Now, at that time, he lived in Washington, in Virginia. He drove more than 4 or 5 hours to come to speak to us. He got up. He recited these 2 ayat, 60 and 61, that's it. And then he said, do you know the connection between these 2 ayat? Reflect with me for a moment. The first ayah is talking about miracle work. The miracle of resurrecting the dead. رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Sayyidina Ibrahim is saying, Ya Allah, demonstrate to me, how do you resurrect the dead? And you know the rest of the ayah. قال فخذ أربعة من الطير فصرهن إليك. Chop up 4 birds, they come together, ثم ادعوهن يأتينك سعيا. The next ayah immediately after that, مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله. The example of those who spend their money في سبيل الله is that like the example of a seed, a corn in the middle of symbol is what's a symbol? A corn in a tusk, and then there's 7 of them, and one becomes 700. And this is the most famous ayah about spending fi sabilillah in the Quran. We all memorize the ayah. Let's hold on to that thought. In Surah Yusuf, when Sayyidina Yusuf, when the king, Al-Aziz, when he had the dream, he said, what does this dream mean? He dreamt that there were 7 cows devouring other 7 cows. What's going on here? So they said to him, the only one who can explain this is Yusuf. So they went to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam and they said, what is this dream? So eventually he explained that the dream is that there were going to be 7 years of good harvest, followed by 7 years of drought. So he said, take the corn, take the grains that you will collect in the 7 years of good harvest and keep the seeds for the next 7 years. In both cases, we're talking about seeds producing miracles. Just like the miracle of resurrecting the dead. And rahimahullah, Sheikh Hanuti was very unique in looking at the context of the ayat rather than the specific meaning of one ayah detached from the other. When I used to be one of his students more than almost 40 years ago, we used to sit in front of him and he used to teach us tafsir. He used to say an ayah cannot be understood without its context. You have to understand, what are we talking about right now? So tonight is about sustainability, but it's about miracle work also. I explained the miracle aspect of tonight. I'll elaborate on it a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about the choice of the word sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, the first thing that comes to mind, some people were thinking that we're going to talk about going green. And that's a plausible concept. I mean, nowadays, going green is an important concept, and we Muslims care about conservation. Prophet ﷺ said, conserve water, even if you are sitting on the edge of a running river, of a running brook or river, you're supposed to conserve water. Now you'd probably say, why would I conserve water? The vision of the Prophet ﷺ is to teach us conservation and to be green, to the point that this hadith was used as a slogan in Australia to teach people how to conserve water. Prophet Muhammad said, conserve water even if you are on a running river. Sallallahu alayhi ya Rasulullah. 1400 years ago, he's teaching us to be green. But that's not the meaning, that's not the intention, the main intention from choosing the word sustainability tonight. The brothers chose it without consulting with me. So I had to reflect on it and to try to explain how successful they were in choosing this without even realizing it. Number one, some may think that it's about sustaining the center, but I think it's about sustaining us, you and me. You see, last week at the Janazah, I spoke about the concept of Sadaqah Jariyah. You see, a Sadaqah Jariyah, may I have my water please tonight? I don't know, I'm thirsty. So when we talk about sustainability here, who among us doesn't want his deeds to continue after his passing? Isn't there a hadith in which sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث. When the son of Adam, by the way, son means son, daughter. This is not about male, female. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his son of Adam means everyone. The issue of Adam, the progeny of Adam. When they die, when you and I die, what do we leave behind? 3 things. 3 things. One of them is sadaqah jariyah. Sustainable sadaqah. You see where the word sustain comes in here? A sadaqah that sustains itself, that propagates itself, that perpetuates itself, that just keeps giving. Okay? So that's one of the meanings. The other one is ilmun yantafa'u bihi. How many of us are writing books and giving lectures and tapes and have a YouTube channel that people would listen to for years and years? Not many. I've been speaking for 35 years and you can't find a single YouTube channel, YouTube tape of me or a clip or whatever it is. Nothing. Because it's never been my goal and I never paid attention to it. If I did, that would be a sadaqah jariyah. I haven't been good at that. But then there's one more thing left, and I hope that you work on that, and that is وَوَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَدْعُو لَهُ, that you have a child, a son, a daughter, a grandson, granddaughter that makes dua for you, that knows how to say رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. If you haven't been able to do that, then you got to work on the other two. You got to get at least one of these three. I mean, if you miss out on all three of them, you really have a serious problem. This is after you pass. In your life, you have another option. Rasulullah ﷺ says, من أدرك والداه ولم يدخلاه الجنة رغم أنف عبد ولا لا يا شيخ وليد رغم أنف عبد أدرك والداه فلم يدخلاه الجنة. Woe unto somebody who lived in his parents' lifetime, one or both of them, as the Quran says, أحدهما أو كلاهما, one or the other, and they were not the cause for him to enter Jannah. So you have in two directions from which to benefit. Upward towards your parents, making dua for you, and on the other side, your children, your good deeds, your sustainable sadaqah. So that's again one of the meanings of sustainability. The other meaning has to do with organization, science, and development. Many of you here know that I've been doing some research in that area for the past several years. I have a master's degree in it, and I'm working on my PhD. I'm almost done with it. And what I've learned in the years is that for an organization to succeed, anyone can start an organization. Tomorrow you can call your lawyer, you can go online and start a foundation and name it, you know, Sheikh Walid Bartawish Foundation, and you'll be one of 3-4 million nonprofits that are out there. Yeah, but how many will survive 36 years as this center has survived? Allahu Akbar. Ya akhwa, wallahi, once I was debating with a professor. She said, many nonprofits go out of business. I said, none that I know of. She said, excuse me? I said, I know thousands of nonprofits, Islamic nonprofits, schools, mosques, community service organizations. I've been here almost 50 years, 46 years, and I've never seen one go out of business. With the help of Allah Azza wa Jal, they survive. But this is not about survival. What I've studied is for an organization to be productive, it has to turn into an institution. Now, bear with me for a second. I'm talking to you at a master's level now, and I hope you will bear with me for a second. An organization has to become an institution. An institution is nothing but an organization that, number one, endures. In other words, it's been around for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, at least. Not one that was born yesterday that still has no credibility and no legitimacy, and people are still questioning it and asking questions about it. When an organization has been around as long as this, or ICPC, or many of our masajid, it is on its way to become an institution. Number two, it has to provide public value. These centers are not clubs. They're not عزبة أبونا زي ما بيقولوها إخواننا المصريين. Our Egyptian brothers say, هي دي عزبة أبوك? Is this your father's bodega? No, it's not. These are centers that are here for public value. They provide us service. They teach our children, not just how to do nasheed. Many of them, mashallah, memorize. They memorize the Quran. Many of them go on to be good citizens. They become lawyers. I know some kids that grew up like your kids here that are now partners in major law firms in the United States. Some of them are physicians. Some of them are lawyers. They are in every field out there. Some are professors. And they are the product of these institutions, which leads me to the next point. Dr. Sharik Siddiqui, I met him recently. He's a very famous professor in the United States at the national level. He's the president of the nonprofit organization, the main nonprofit organization in the United States. It's a conglomerate. And Sharik Siddiqui is the head of it. He's affiliated with ISNA. Dr. Sharik Siddiqui wrote a book on this topic, and he says the following. He says, Muslims in America did not survive, even though they've been here from before Columbus. There is evidence that Muslims have been in America before Columbus set foot on this land, long before slavery, but they did not survive. I know, I told you this once before. I know a congressman in California whose name is Daimelli, Marvin Daimelli. One of our Jordanian brothers had a conversation with him. He was one of his staff. And he confided to our brother Marwan, he said to him, actually, my family name is Daim Ali, and we are Muslims. We came from Mali several hundred years ago. Now, how did Daim Ali morph into Daimelli? You see, that's what happened to generation after generation after generation of Muslims until 65. 1965, the last wave of Muslims after the United States opened its doors for immigration managed to survive. That's us. And Dr. Sharik raises the question. He says, why do you think that is? You know what's the answer? The answer is that we discovered this concept called non-profit regime. We discovered the concept of non-profit. All of a sudden we realized that there is no ministry of awqaf that is going to come and open a masjid for us. That there's no ministry of education that's going to build an Islamic school for our children. That unless we do it ourselves, it's not going to be done. Once the Muslims recognized that, and they started benefiting from the non-profit regime that we have here, they managed to survive. We are the first generation. My generation, my father's generation, is the first generation to manage to maintain its identity proudly and to be who we are today. But that cannot be sustained until we do what we're about to do today. You see, for an institution to endure, I mentioned that it has to endure historically, has to be here for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. It has to provide public value, which the center does, but it also has to be independent. Independent of what? Independent of politics. Independent of the whims of people who become in charge. See, our generation was raised by God-fearing people. But what can we guarantee that the next generation, especially with the election phenomena that we follow in this country. Everybody nowadays, you almost have elections at home, like husband and wife and children, let's have an election. It's like a kid in a candy store. We came here from countries that had no elections, and all of a sudden we have elections in our masajid, in our madaris, everywhere you go, it's election. Brothers and sisters, 90% of nonprofits in America don't have elections. They have self-perpetuating boards made of people who care about the organization, who live to serve the mission, and that the people trust, and they build the organization that way. We fell into this trap of democratization, and la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Most of our centers are driven by people who don't know what they're looking for, unfortunately. And the fear, as long as we are electing decent people, there's no problem. But the fear is that there will be a time when we become dependent on the donations of people who may or may not fear Allah Azza wa Jal. And then the politics played, and they start turning the centers away from their missions. This happened. This actually happened in some states where Islamic centers were turned into social clubs. And gradually, you'll be able to be part of a dance recital or whatever the heck they're doing there, far, far from the original mission of the center. I won't say where or how, but it did happen actually. And it's not common, but it could happen. So to sustain an organization like this one, for now and for the future, what is needed is to sustain its structure, meaning that it has to have funds that will produce income, that will pay its bills, independent of how people feel about the organization. You see, if you're constantly depending on the whims of people, and if the people are not happy with the decision you made, they'll sit on their money. They'll stop donating. And if they stop donating, we will have a problem. So what is the difference between this sustainability business that we're doing and the fundraising we're doing in Ramadan? Very soon, in a couple of months, we're going to be doing a fundraising. And you're going to say, Brother Abbas, you came to us and you said, give me money. And then now you're asking us for money again. What's the difference? There's a big difference. What we do in Ramadan, we collect money to pay the bills, to make sure that there is an electricity, there's air conditioning, that the imam and the staff here are compensated, and they should be. Normal things. What we're talking about tonight, and wallahi, I don't care whether we raise money or not. I want to make sure that you get the idea into your heads and that we start thinking about it at least tonight. And inshallah, we'll see it. We will do the sanabil tonight. But what I want you to realize is that tonight, we're about to start thinking differently, thinking about creating an endowment, a waqf, that will be put aside. This will not be used to buy toilet paper for the bathrooms and pay for the electric bill, none of that. This will be put in a separate account, in trust, and it will be used to buy assets like the land around the masjid. It will be used to build facilities, not only for the service of the community, but also perhaps revenue generation, like a community center that will generate revenue, that will pay the bills, and that will keep this masjid becoming an institution and continuing to be independent, and hopefully be able to achieve its strategic goals, which I believe you should be involved in coming up with them. So with that in mind, I'd like to call upon some of you to want to seed this project tonight. And again, wallahi, I'm not worried about how much, because Allah will put the barakah. And in Khutbat al-Jama'ah, I gave an example of how this happens. Those of you who know me, I've been boycotting China since 2006. I was in Jordan buying some stuff. I'll end with this. I'm not going to tell you too many stories. I was buying some stuff and I noticed it's made in China. I dropped it. So one of my relatives looked at me and he's like, "You think you're going to make a difference in China by not buying this item?" I said to him, "I do my part, Allah does his part." Wallahi, recently, when I started finding out about how they're treating our Uyghur brothers and sisters, when I found out they are transplanting the men out of the household and bringing Hans to live with their wives in their homes, that should send chills down your spines. This is what the Chinese are doing to you brothers and sisters there. They are taking their children, putting them in Chinese families to try to turn them away from being Muslims. This is after they destroyed East Turkestan, which is the original Uyghur territory, and there are estimates they annihilated and killed 60 million of them since 1949. This information you don't see on CNN. All of this has been happening while we are listening to Kulthum and I don't know who else you have in India and Pakistan, songs and dance. We're not paying attention. Recently we found out. I did my part. So I'll continue to boycott China, to the point that I would go through 15 toasters before I buy one, because all 15 are made in China. Go to Walmart and look at how many toasters are there on the shelf. And I challenge you to find one not made in China. And you know what? The hell with toasting bread. I'm not going to toast bread if I'm going to buy it from China. Excuse my French. I told my wife, I said, I'll do my part. I'm not going to buy Chinese even if I don't have to have that which is made in China. All of a sudden comes Corona. And as soon as I saw that, I said, Allahu Akbar. Some Muslims here and there are boycotting Chinese garbage products that they are selling us here and there. And Allah put the barakah in that. And that barakah shows now trillions of dollars of Chinese revenue is being lost. The entire nation of China is under siege now. Instead of the Uyghurs, the 3 million of them being under siege, now China itself is. Now the whole world is under siege because the world is refusing to acknowledge the problem. Nations are closing their borders. And that's not far away from us. We may wind up doing it. I'm saying the story to bring to your attention one single concept. That is, you do your part, Allah does the rest. You don't have to rationally understand how a center like this could become a thriving community center where there is elderly, spending time together, the sisters are having a good time together, that the children are studying, all kinds of things can be thought of that could be done here with this revenue stream and everything. Don't think too far. Just think, what is my part? And leave the rest to Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's the meaning of tawakkaltu ala Allah. That you do your part, leave the rest to Allah. But to sit back on your hand and do nothing and expect Allah to solve our problems, Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't work like that. Otherwise, He would not have told Maryam, وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجَذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْكِ رَطَبًا جَنِيًّا. Maryam just gave birth to Sayyidina Isa, and Allah says, shake the palm tree. Go try to shake a palm tree. Have you ever seen a palm tree? Have you ever seen how tall that palm tree is? Try to shake it. You couldn't shake it with a bulldozer. And yet Maryam, who just gave birth to a baby, is being asked to shake the palm tree to show us that there is the law of cause and effect. You do your job, Allah does the rest. Allah will drop those rutab and janiyah on Maryam, but Maryam had to do something. There's a lot more on the topic. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'd like to see who would like to seed this project. I'm going to start with a modest amount. Although a project like this really should be started with a whole bunch of people, 5, 6 people, starting with $100,000 each. $500,000 just to seed the project, and the rest will come, inshallah. But since we haven't really prepared the community for it, tonight is the first time we're talking about it, I'd like to see if anybody would be willing to start with $5,000.